Hello, SCT friends. This month, our Creative Cards blog posts are all about sharing thanks. And today I'm sharing this card that I created using the brand new Concord and ninth release. Now, this card has a little bit of a theme to it with the teacup, but it follows a really nice design that I use over and over again with a pattern background and a bold sentiment. Let's take a look at how I created it. When I need to create a quick and easy card, I usually start out by creating some kind of pattern on my background. Today I'm using the Cottage Charms stencil pack from Concord and 9, which includes 4 different patterns that you can layer together to create the overall pattern look. I'm using a waffle flower grip mat here to hold my stencil in place, but I'm also going to add some mint tape from scrapbook.com to make sure that really stays in place. My first layer, which is the most bold layer, is going to be in Harbor, and I'm going to make sure that I don't overdo it, that I just give it a light wash of that blue Harbor color. And this kind of Moroccan background design really turns out beautiful in that light blue. Now every stencil we add on top is going to add a little bit more detail to this beautiful pattern. You can choose to use one stencil or all 4 if you'd like. For this one, I'm using Sunflower with a very light touch and a mini blending brush from Gina K Designs. I typically tend to go over the stencil, especially around the edges where I might have missed a space before I pull up that stencil. And look how gorgeous that detail is. Next, we have the center portion of those floral motifs in the center. And for this one, I'm going to be grabbing spiced cider. I want to give it that warmth with the orange spiced cider. Again, because these are very small and delicate openings and I don't want to overdo it, I'm using a very light hand with a mini blending brush from Gina K Designs. I really do love building patterns with stencils because every time you lift up that stencil, it is an exciting reveal, and look at how beautiful that is. The last layer is going to be the darkest, and this is the smallest detail. It's the circle in the center, and I'm using Midnight here again with a Gina K Designs mini blending brush. I am touching this ever so lightly because Midnight is a very saturated color, so I want to make sure I use a light hand here. Okay, now it's time for the full reveal of this patterned background. How gorgeous is that? Absolutely stunning. I love this stencil pack. I'm going to trim this down by just 1/4 of an inch on all sides before I place it on a piece of Harbor cardstock that's sized at A2 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 using adhesive from scrapbook.com. Now that I have my pattern background, it's time for a bold sentiment. So I'm using the More to Say dies from Concord and 9th. I love their really beautiful font on these, and they're nice and thick, which really helps them to stand out, especially if you've created a pattern background. I also like to use embossing folders a lot, and I find that a die like this really stands out among all of that dimension, all of the pattern that I'm using here too. So I'm layering up my shadow layer cut from white cardstock 2 layers. Then I'm going to layer up my sentiment cut from Midnight cardstock 2 times as well. Having this nice thick sentiment helps it to stand out and looks very professional on the card front. To add one more detail to the page, I'm grabbing the Afternoon Tea dies from Concord and 9th. These are gorgeous, and this huge die set includes cups, it includes teapots, so many different things for you to cut out gorgeous icons to add to your cards. I'm cutting out the teacup in Harbor cardstock first. I'm also going to cut out the details for the teacup as well as the tea from wheat cardstock. Because a teacup has those nice curved edges, it always looks a bit more realistic when you use a blending brush and some ink to add some shading to the sides. Then I'm going to put this teacup together by gluing the teacup body to the handle, and then I'll glue that teacup onto the tea colored background there that I've cut out. I'm adding just a pop of that sunflower cardstock to the front of my teacup just to help it to coordinate with the pattern background that I've created. Then we're going to add some detail with pebble ink to the tea bag and the tea string just to give it a little bit of that pebble color. I'm going to add a small midnight heart to the tea bag before I go ahead and adhere this all together to my teacup. Not only will I have dimension with those layers of cardstock, but I'm also adding dimension with adhesive as well. I'm using 2mm foam adhesive to the sentiment and 1mm to the teacup. Both are from scrapbook.com. I'm placing my teacup right in that bottom right corner so that it looks like it's sitting on the frame of my card before I go ahead and adhere my sentiment down. I really like the way that it offsets the sentiment and just looks really great. Before I finish, I wanted to add a little bit more theming to the inside of my card this time. And this sentiment says, "You're my cup of tea." And so I thought it would be nice to add that little sub-sentiment to the inside of my card. The last step I took was to add my card front to an A2 folded card base. Now, this design is something I use over and over again, a pattern background, something with, a busy pattern, an embossed background, a blended background, then a really bold sentiment. It works every time and it always looks great and it creates a quick and simple card. Thanks so much for stopping by the SCT YouTube channel today. Learn more about the products that I used in the video description box below by clicking the More button. Visiting the blog, you'll find more photos of this card, a full linked supply list as well. I hope you've been inspired to share thanks with a handmade card to someone that you care about this month. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to click the subscribe button to find more card making videos here on the SCT YouTube channel.